Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another inspiring episode of the Matrix Green Pill podcast. I'm your host, Hilmarie, and today's guest brings a combination of corporate leadership, high-performance athletics, and powerful personal transformation. Joining us today is Omer Rahi, Senior Director and Head of Multinational Coverage and Transaction Management at Deutsche Bank in the Middle East. With decades of experience in corporate and investment banking, Omer has led complex cross-border deals while also mentoring executives, especially those over 40, to unlock their full potential. But there's more. Omer is also a high-performing athlete and a member of a world champion drag boat team. His personal journey of transformation is nothing short of extraordinary. Omer, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Hilmarie, and thanks for having me.
I'm excited about this conversation. So let's start at the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, and how did you end up here in the UAE?
So it's a long story, Hilmarie, and there are quite a lot of things that have happened. So let me try to structure a story of how I started off as my profession and then how did I end up in UAE. So I remember when I was a child, I went with my mom to one of the bank branches in Pakistan. That's where I'm originally from. And it was one of the most depressing experiences walking into one of the branch offices, which was quite shabby. They had people who were really uninterested. The whole atmosphere was depressing. And I thought that why would anyone want to work in a bank? And this is my mom's locker area. So I remember in the 90s, I moved to the UK for my studies and I was in London and I opened my first student account in London. And I walk into that bank branch where I opened my bank account. And it was a different experience altogether where I could actually smell the fragrance of nice perfume, lush carpet, beautiful paintwork, artwork, beautiful ambiance, and very, very smart people working there. And that was the moment where I decided that, hey, I just want to be a banker. I had no idea what banking was, but that was just start for me to initiate my career in banking. Truth be told, my father was a banker as well, but that never inspired me as much as that whole experience of opening a bank account. And that's why I have a very emotional attachment to it. As I tell a lot of people that always listen to your inner child. And if you always satisfy the inner child, it somehow brings the best out of you. So that was my start of considering getting into banking. Fast forward, went to multiple places within banking. I started off in Pakistan and then I got a very, very good break in Deutsche Bank to move to Dubai. I was double-minded, but I took the right choice. Was never part of the plan to be here for that long, but it's been almost 14 years, in fact, almost 15 years that I'm in UAE. So that's a little story about me, about my profession, about moving to the UAE.
Amazing. What an interesting story, from having such a bad experience in a bank and then having the polar opposite experience later on in life and then deciding this really was what was of interest to you. And I think I've also been in Dubai about the same amount of time. As you say, when people come, they think it's going to be for a short period and then they end up staying. So that's amazing. I know you've also faced some challenges in your career. There's been some ups and downs. Can you share a pivotal moment or a failure that became a turning point for you?
There are quite a few, Hilmarie, and my personal belief is after many, many years of experience that there's no such thing as failure. It's all about feedback and about learning what went wrong and trying to figure out what went wrong and how you could have done better. And that's something which we'll talk more when we move forward, considering my NLP qualification as well. That sort of amplifies that belief. One of the things that really stand out, Hilmarie, is I remember it's a little different than a transaction, but I would say it really changed my belief system that I was working for a organization and I got a verbal offer from another organization. Now I was all excited to move to that organization and something or the other just wasn't getting the offer letter. Verbally, they had approved each and everything, and they were almost very, very close for me to give me that offer letter. And one thing led to another. There were these delays and delays and delays, and I just couldn't fathom that. Why is this happening to me? I'm giving everything it takes, right? And there was a moment where I actually remember that my supposedly line manager back then, he said that, look, I have the offer, but we can't give you X. We have to give you X minus 10, but this is the best that we can do right now. And I was so desperate, Hilmarie, that I said that, you know what, I'm just going to accept it because mentally I was just totally checked out from my existing employer. And all of a sudden, I received a call from a bigger organization, and that was Deutsche Bank. One thing led to another that I actually got a much, much better opportunity at Deutsche. Come to think about it, that sort of gave me that belief, Hilmarie, that there are moments where you think that you're failing, but actually you're not failing. It is maybe not the right time for you. Maybe you can give it your best, but you don't have, how should I put it, the ability to control the result. You have the ability to put in the effort. So I remember I putting in all the effort, but I was trying to control that result. And while I was trying to control that result, I became needy. When I became needy, I got an offer which wasn't as per my expectation. This is a saying, right? That man gives the award, but God gives the reward. And that's my belief system. And somehow I got a much better opportunity and somehow changed the table. If you look at my trajectory in terms of my career, I owe it a lot to my existing employer. And if I wouldn't have gone and waited, I probably wouldn't have been where I am right now.
That's an excellent learning, something good for our audience to hear. That just because things don't go according to our plan or according to our timeline doesn't mean it's failure. So sometimes it's better to slow down and wait, and then the time will be right. Because as you say, when we get desperate, that sort of comes through. And then we end up settling for something that's not really to our full potential. So don't think of things as failures, but rather what's the feedback? What can I learn from it? And then apply that, and then better things will come. But I love that learning of slow down and wait sometimes.
Absolutely. Help me. And just to add on that, it's like if you try to hold sand and if you try to grab it as tightly as possible, you're unable to grab that sand. It's going to fall off. But if you just grab onto it lightly, gently, and not really thinking about it too much, it just stays with you.
I love that visual. When you have an open hand, you can hold a lot of sand. But if you close your fist around it, you can only hold a very little. So we shouldn't try and control everything. Sometimes we just have to have an open hand. Excellent visual.
Precisely. Thanks, Hilmarie.
So I know that discipline and mindset has played a huge role in your journey. How do you develop good habits, and how are you able to stick to them long term?
Helmi, I think this is a very interesting topic. Interesting, I mean, good habits and sticking with discipline sometimes is a little subjective. For me, it's different. For maybe someone else is different. Sometimes, for me, how it works is you try to make one change, which becomes the catalyst and it has a trickle down effect on making other changes. As an example, right? For example, I've made one concentrated change in my life. And because of that, I've seen so many things have changed. So I made, in order to be disciplined, in order to get the maximum result, one thing I changed was getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm not saying that that's the result that everyone wants to have, but I said that, you know what, I'm going to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, period. Because of waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I had so much time that I managed to change a lot of my habits. So waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning gave me time to read, gave me time to have some spiritual connection with my maker. It gave me time to go and actually push myself physically. And once I started to do that, this is neuro connection that you have, that your dopamine effect goes up. And then that goes up, it gives you so much power to carry on the entire rest of the day and push yourself even more, which probably was missing from my side. What happens is that people try to change a lot of things. I only focus changing on one thing, but I made a promise to myself that I'm going to do this on a daily basis for 100 days. And all of a sudden, I saw that that one little change was a catalyst for making changes in different parts of my things that I wanted to achieve. And fast forward now, it's just become second nature. Like when people tell me that they have difficulties waking up in the morning or they have to snooze, I just don't understand that because I've managed to conquer that. I think that's the whole idea, is that if you're able to manage to conquer one little thing, it gives you signals to your mind that you have the ability and capability of doing more. People usually underestimate the power of the mind. It is quite powerful and able to do a lot of things that you can't even imagine. So that would be my 2 cents around discipline and mindset.
I love that you decided to do one thing and that you said, don't try and do everything. I think we all have, a lot of us have that all or nothing mindset. I'm all in or I do nothing. Instead of that, because then what happens is you go for 5 minutes and then you quit because it's all too difficult to change so many things. I think it's also called habit stacking. Find that one habit and then start building on top of that habit once that one is sticking. So I think that's really good insights from somebody who has done it. As you say, it's not someone, you're not talking about something theoretical. You've actually done it and you've seen how that one change, by sticking to it, has impacted so much in your life. You often coach professionals over 40 who feel stuck. Why do you think this stage of life brings such a turning point for many?
Henry, I think usually a lot of people lose hope because they feel that once they touch 40, it's the downfall, it's their downfall. Honestly, when I look at myself, Hilmarie, I feel that I've just started now. I feel I have more energy than I was as a teenager, physically and mentally. It goes hand in hand. And my personal belief is that a lot of people lose faith physically, and then that is reflected on their self-esteem, and that self-esteem is reflected on with their family, with their work. It's a very vicious cycle. Then that downfall starts to really creep in. Then to the earlier point which I made is that then they try to make a lot of changes in their life, and once they have all those changes, they're super excited, follow it for 1, 2, 3 days, and then later on they just fall flat and get into their old habits. My view is that sometimes you just need to take a step back and realize that what are your key areas that you want to develop. Sometimes it's just shifting that mindset by actually educating them that look, it's not the end of the world. 40 is the new 30 or the new 20 because I'm in my 40s, so I think that way. And on a serious note, I actually feel that I have the ability and capability much more than other 20s and 30s who I'm associated with. Those are the few things which I see happening quite frequently. And it goes, again, the cost of repeating myself, Hilmarie, that it goes both ways from a physical standpoint and from a mental standpoint. And that whole connection is something which really gives them that downfall because, yes, growing is part of the whole experience journey of reality, but it's embracing it and trying to stay in shape and pushing the boundaries. Sometimes that is missing because they fall in that comfort zone and they don't really want to push their boundaries, thinking that this is probably the beginning of the end.
I'm noticing a pattern in some of the things you're saying. All the way through our discussion so far, you've spoken about slowing down and wait, try and make one change, take a step back. You're about taking things slowly, intentionally, making those intentional changes. And you also mentioned a few times also the mindset shift that is needed to make changes. What are some of the limiting beliefs you see most often among the people you mentor, and how can they begin to make a shift in those?
Limiting belief and sometimes really not being confident is part of the journey. It happens to me, it happens to a lot of people. I'm sure at some stage it happens to you as well. And that's something which is there, right? Doubt sort of creeps in. I like to give this analogy of I play golf. It's a beautiful game, but it's a very frustrating, especially if you're teed up and you visualize how you want to hit that shot. And then all of a sudden on your right, you see there's water, and all on the left, you see there's a hazard of a lot of woods there. And while you're playing your shot, while telling yourself that, hey, I want to hit straight, you're constantly telling yourself, at least I'm telling myself, I don't want to go in the water or I don't want to go left in the hazard. While I play that shot, that doubt really creeps in that I don't want to go over there. And what you know, it usually ends up being in the water.
You think about all the time not doing is the thing you end up doing because you're thinking about it so much.
Exactly. So what happens is that you visualize everything, you've done everything right, but you've not framed your mind in such a way that, hey, I want to be here. You framed your mind in such a way that I don't want to be at some place. And the unconscious mind really doesn't understand, differentiate the word no or don't. If it says, I don't want to be in the water, it's somehow understand that I want to be in the water. And that doubt, when it comes to your mind, you're like, oh my God, what's going on? So I like to give this analogy because that's the way human nature also is operating. A lot of people are scared of doing public speaking. They're afraid. Why? If you really go into the root cause problem, is because they are afraid to be humiliated. They don't want to be in that situation where people make fun of them because they're thinking the worst case scenario was going to happen to them, that they're going to stumble or they're going to stutter or they're going to say something which is embarrassing and they're going to be the laughing stock. But I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, that they're unable to visualize the positive aspect that they can actually do a lot. I love this terminology where people say that there's no such thing as luck. If there is luck, it actually is when preparation meets timing. So if your timing is there and you're prepared, luck strikes. If you're prepared, that's under your control. Timing is not under your control. A lot of the people that have these limiting beliefs are actually thinking in that negative connotation that what's going to happen. And that's where a lot of, including myself, and I'll be frank with you, I'm in that same sort of situation where I have to actually tell myself that, look, it's okay to make mistakes. It's fine. It's not the end of the world. It's okay. That's how you move forward. And that's the way I sort of coach these people as well, that look, everyone has their limiting beliefs. You just have to be strong enough to accept. And there is no such thing as failure. It's just feedback. It's just note down that what went wrong and was under your control that you could have changed the table. Those would be my important things that I would focus on.
Yes, I think, again, you've also mentioned this a few times now, to focus on what we can control. Don't focus on the things you can't control. What's in your control? Focus on that. And then things, or it depends on the timing as well. You also, I liked how you said there's no such thing as luck. It's about preparation and timing at the same time, then things go. But also, again, what can we control? What can we prepare in ourselves? We've spoken about mentorship, and I know that for yourself, for your personal life, mentorship was also important. What did your mentors teach you that you now pass on to others?
Or at least I was, a very impatient and a person that would want things fast. That is a good quality. A few of my mentors really taught me a few things, right? I think one thing which really stands out is trust the process. There is a process, trust the process, follow the process, get the basics. They talk about a lot of sports people that actually follow the smaller details to the best of their ability, because those are the basic things that really you need to hone and be perfect at. That will allow you to play better in the actual match or actual position. That was one thing which really, really stands out, is actually trust the process. Besides the trust the process, one thing which is extremely underrated, Hilmarie, and I find it very, very difficult to understand that why is it so difficult, is that people sometimes are just not willing to listen. Active listening is something which is so crucial that as a mentor or as a person leading a team or even my senior management, sometimes the colleagues are not really looking for solutions. They're looking for someone really listening to their problems and addressing their problems, but first listening to them and understanding why they're facing those challenges. And I think that a lot of senior leaders still have this problem that they're not willing to listen. And I don't blame them because they've got such less time and they have to do so much and they really want to jump the gun. But I think these two things really stand out for me, that you really need to trust the process. And once you become a senior leader or a team manager, or even in your personal capacity, Hilmarie, active listening plays a very, very impactful role in terms of everything, especially selling. A lot of people think that being an extrovert is what will get you the sale. It's actually the other way around. The more quiet you are and the more you're listening, it gives you more areas that you can actually work with your client and customer.
That's a really interesting insight. As you say, underrated, that people tend to talk more and listen less. Whereas if they did the opposite, they would achieve a lot more. I also like that you went back to that trust the process, setting up those habits, setting up the process and following the steps, you will get there. If everything is all over the place, there is no system, there is no process, then it's a lot harder to achieve anything.
That's correct, Hilmarie.
Your personal transformation story is incredible. Do you want to tell us about that?
There have been a few personal transformation. One is the physical transformation, one is a mental transformation, and both of them is a story of its own. Maybe the physical one, I'm going to talk about it later. Maybe I'm going to talk about my mental transformation. It's a very interesting story, and I won't blame anyone but myself. Hilmarie, my background is that I was a middle child. And in fact, I'll go one step back. I had an elder brother, and his name was Omar as well. And he was maybe 2 years old when he passed away.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry about that.
I wasn't born then, and it was one of the most difficult experiences for my parents. This is what they've told me, even till date.
I can imagine.
And it was a very tragic incident what happened. So, after a lot of difficulties and a lot of prayers, I was born, and they kept my name Omar. And hence, there were a lot of expectations from me as the second child. And hence, my father was very close to me. My mom was very close to me as well. But then I had another brother who was born. All of a sudden, I had this middle child syndrome. And other middle child siblings, they would understand, and we were all boys. I was in a tight spot, or at least that's how I thought. I was in a tight spot that while my parents had a lot of expectations from me, I wasn't really the most pleasant kid. And it was a chicken and egg situation because I probably thought that it was my parents or my siblings or it's me. Nonetheless, obviously, I do realize that parents, no matter whatever the situation, it will always love you. But being a child, it was a different case. What happened because of that was that I became a very introvert child. I used to hate people. I had social anxiety. I just was not comfortable being around people. That something was difficult because if I was around and I could see that my elder brother, he was that the larger than life personality, that he would be there and he would just pull all the crowd from a very young age. And the younger one was this innocent child where everyone would cling to. And I used to be there sort of struggling, where to go. And that really dampened my personality to a large extent till I reached my teenage. Then I realized that there's no one coming to save me but myself, which is, I remember the time and the day. That was the moment I said, look, there's no one that's going to come to save me but myself. And I need to make this change. And I have to make this change. And my parents were trying their best. I'll give the benefit of the doubt. My father was really, really concerned about me, but nothing was really moving the needle. And that was the moment I decided, look, I'm just going to put myself in a very uncomfortable position and challenge myself. I'm going to mask it. I don't care. I'm just going to do it. Once I started to do it, and this was during my late teens, and I was pretty blessed, Hilmarie, that I had very good friends as well that gave me that support system during my school days as well, that allowed me that change or that thing that I was trying to aspire to be. I started to see that change. I had that limiting belief, which we were talking about as well, that I'm not that good looking, I'm not that well spoken, I'm not as good as my brothers, I'm not good in a lot of things. The only thing that was good was at sports. But that wasn't truth. That wasn't true. That was something which I had made those assumptions about myself. And fast forward to now that once I started to conquer those belief system and actually changing it and masking it to a large extent, I saw people reacting in a different way. And that actually strengthened my belief system, thinking that no, it is something that I've created this impression about myself that I'm not good enough. The world doesn't see me that way. Yeah, I can be whoever I want to be. So that is something which really transformed to who I am today, that now when people look at me, they can't even believe what I've gone through as a child and what I am right now, that I feel extremely comfortable around anyone. I'm really comfortable speaking in public forums. I'm really speaking very comfortable being going traveling on my own, and I don't feel nervous at all. So, and why am I telling this story, Henry, is because there's so many people like me that are actually going through this problem and they feel that it's their problem. But trust me, it's self-created and you really can conquer this. I'm pretty much sure, Hilmarie, if they probably would have done some sort of a test of mine when I was young, they probably would have put me on the spectrum thinking that maybe I'm Down syndrome, maybe. But the fact of the matter is that I actually pulled myself together to make it happen. I'm very fortunate that I did have that comfort of being around people that gave me that luxury and ability to really push through and be the person I am today. And I feel that probably I am the best version of myself.
Thank you so much for sharing that really true personal transformation from being that introvert, social anxiety, not being comfortable around people, sort of, as you said, that middle child syndrome with your older brother being larger than life and the younger one being the innocent child. All those beliefs you put on yourself. It wasn't true. And when you realize that, and I love that you said you came to realize that no one is coming to save you. Funny, I just had another guest that said something so similar. They realized no one was coming to save them. They had to figure out the solution for themselves. And that's what you did. And then you said, I'm putting myself in a challenging position. And because of that, or also during that self-awareness, making that change is who you are today. You didn't just stay in that self-belief of, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I can't do that. You actually challenged yourself to get out of that. So truly a transformation from what you believed to who you then became. So you've got the experience, you've got the personal experience, you have mentored other people. What advice would you give to someone who's at rock bottom, be that physically, mentally, or professionally, and they just don't know where to start?
It's a very deep question, Hilmarie. Very, very deep question. Obviously, it depends from person to person what their goals are. I like to give this example of a cricketer by the name of Virat Kohli. I'm sure you must have heard of him. If not, I'm sure a lot of people know about him. While his claim to fame, he must be one of the best cricketers in the world. But for me, it's not about his capability or ability to play cricket. For me, what really inspired was the ability to handle pressure. I mean, he was a 12-year-old kid where he lost his father. And not only his father, Henry, he was his role model, he was his coach, he was someone that really pushed him to be the best version of himself. And the very next day he comes, and then after his father passing away, where a normal kid or even anyone adult as well would have been in a shocking situation, he had a match and he played that match and he performed because his team needed him. That was a creation of someone being a great player. And if you fast forward to where he started his career, he would go in certain situations where they would be in a losing position. There would be this whole crowd chanting for him or chanting against him, having that pressure. And each time he would go, that he would not only deliver or survive, but he would thrive. He would just thrive. What I learned from this is that whenever there's pressure, you have that opportunity to either be that bigger person and outperform or crumble. For me, that's the difference of actually being rock bottom or really breaking the shell and being a hero for your country, for your club, for yourself, for your family. Sometimes all of us, whenever there's a moment of pressure, we really don't want that pressure. But I would say that pressure is a privilege. And if you're rock bottom and if you're really down, that's probably the best case scenario because you really can't go further down. The only way to go is up. And if there is a bit of pressure, be lucky that you have that pressure because, as I said, pressure is a privilege and champions take chances. Those would be my advice, at least for people who are rock bottom and really push the needle. And again, there's no one coming to save you but yourself. So you really need to make that thing happen. Those would be my key advice, but obviously it would be different from people to people and depending on what the priorities are.
But what I'm hearing you saying there is, even when you rock bottom, even when everything has gone wrong, tap into the pressure. Use that pressure to propel you to your next. So don't let the pressure crush you, but rather try and tap into it to then come up. And in the case of Parth Kohli that you said, he wasn't looking at himself when he lost his father. He was saying, I need to perform because my team needs me. So also maybe doing something for someone else, my family needs me, my children needs me, my team needs me, is also a good catalyst to help us get from a really low, difficult position out of that situation, out of that mindset, but by tapping into that pressure.
Correct. And just to add on that, right? And I personally really have this strong belief that, and it's happened to me, that's why I believe in it, that these emotions of anger, fear, love, this has energy. And you can't imagine if you're able to channelize that energy and use it somewhere constructively. And if you're rock bottom and you've had that energy, you really can transform yourself because I've been there, Hilmarie. I've been there in a situation where I felt that it's probably the end of the world. But I had all that anger in me, right? That why. And I somehow use that anger, transforming myself physically and mentally. And now when I look back, I actually feel privileged that thank God I had that opportunity. Because if I wasn't in that rock bottom situation, I probably would have been a mediocre person. I would have been happy with that. But I don't want to be that mediocre person now. I want to be that high achieving athlete. I want to be that high achieving personality that really stands out. So that is a great opportunity of really pushing yourself and pulling through those moments.
Well, you certainly are the right role model to look at for somebody who has, in your own life, made that transformation, as you say, by challenging yourself, using that energy to become the best version of yourself. Now we've come to the segment of our show where I will ask you some rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
As ready as I can be.
What is one book you've read that shaped your mindset?
Men are from Mars, women from Venus.
Interesting. One gym or training habit you swear by?
Visualization.
What motivates you when you feel stuck or tired?
Past results that I knew that I was stuck and tired, but I still did it and I felt really good after that.
You go back to your processes, your habits. What's the biggest myth about fitness over 40?
That you can't have a six pack.
How would you describe the mindset that got you to where you are today?
Failing is part of the whole experience. The more you fail, the faster you learn. The faster you learn, the more successful you become.
Excellent. What is one thing you do every day, no matter how busy you get?
Fitness, workout, no matter what happens, I do it.
Well, thank you for playing along. That wasn't too difficult. Now I would like to ask you our signature green poll question. Can you share an inspiring or life-changing experience that you have gone through, your green pill moment?
The one that I really want to amplify and really change me as a person was I remember as a child, I was an athletic physique, but not great. And I remember during my teenagers moving to the UK and having a student budget. So, what meant having a student budget was less money and eating junk food. I remember going to this fast food where they served fried chicken, burgers, and soda and chips and all. I was great, honestly, and really. It probably was something which I used to love having back then, but I was having it twice a day, every day for many years. Because London was pretty cold, so I was wearing clothes which were pretty loose and I was layering myself. I didn't realize I was putting on weight. It was only after a few years I went back, I was with my parents, and my father looks at me and without sugarcoating, he said that, Omer, you've become fat. I couldn't believe it that he said that, right? And I was like, no, I'm not fat. He said, no, you are fat. Look at yourself. For a few days, I was in denial. But after that, he did raise a very valid point. And that really changed my way of approaching things. That day onwards, I stopped eating any junk food, any carbs, and I started going to the gym, which was one of the most miserable experiences for me, going down there and going to the gym. I was almost touching like 95 odd kgs. Within 3 to 4 months, 4, 5 months, I brought it down to around 68, 69 kgs, which was extremely remarkable. But I was younger as well, Hilmarie, so it was faster for me to reduce that weight. But there onwards, what happened is that became my philosophy in life that you know what, you really can't be in that obese situation. You really need to take care of yourself. Because of that, I not only that I reduced all that weight, I started to look much younger. And that whole self-esteem topic, which I had talked about, that started to actually strengthen my opinion about myself because physically I was looking much better. Why is this such an important topic to me? Is because of two things, Hilmarie. One is that surround yourself with people who bring the best out of you. Because it was only my father who did not sugarcoat that. Otherwise, the rest of the people that I was hanging around with never ever commented that I was putting on weight. And if it wasn't for my father who actually pointed that out, I probably would have just been the way I am and would have been an overweight adult. But because of that change and that feedback, which I took to heart, and he didn't sugarcoat it, he was pretty blatant about it. I made that change. Because of that change today, I feel much younger, I feel much stronger, I feel great about myself, and I'm a role model for a lot of people, especially for those people who are above 40s, because they really have difficulties reaching the physical aspirations that they have. This is something which is a green pill moment for me, which has really transformed me of who I am. And this is something which I tell to a lot of people because it's never too late to change, and always be around people who would give you that critical feedback, but take it positively and try to make that change.
You said there was two things. Was that one of them? Was there another one or did I miss it?
One was, Henry, that always have people, better people surrounding yourself to bring the best out of you. And the second thing is, once you're in this fitness regime and you become the better version of yourself, that actually, I was never into fitness till that time. And now fitness has become something which is extremely important for me. Why has it become important for me? is because I went through that grueling process, and I always tell myself that I don't want to go through that whole process again. I never want to do that again. So I had this fat boy syndrome in me that, listen, I don't want to do that again. So I've kept myself consistently fit physique wise, pushing myself so that I stay fit, I stay strong, I stay healthy for myself, for my family. And once you start to do that, then automatically you've got control over it. Because a lot of people start to have that discipline, but they don't have that consistency. And that's sort of the thing that brought me discipline and consistency as well.
Wow, what an excellent experience to share with us. Thank you so much. And as you say, when you don't have the money, it's so easy to just start eating junk food, whatever's just available, and then not noticing the change. But I love your message. Surround yourself with people who want the best for you because they're going to be honest with you. But also back to what you said earlier, be open to and listen to feedback. Don't shoot the messenger because there's something in there that will benefit you. And then once you've made the changes, don't go back to old habits. Keep up those changes because it will change the rest of your life as it has for you. So thank you very much for sharing that green pill story with us.
Thanks, Hilmarie. Really appreciate it.
Omer, your story is a powerful reminder that it's never too late to rewrite your narrative. You work with people over 40 to help them also change their mindset. So whether it's in the boardroom, in your own mindset or your health, be willing to make those changes. We haven't even spoken about you being on the track and race team. Oh my goodness, you're going to have to come back for another episode so we can talk about that.
Yeah, that's a whole story in itself. And it's a very beautiful story, very powerful story of how I started, what the process was, and how I ended up being part of this amazing club that I'm associated with.
We'd love to hear more about that. Your commitment to lifting others up, especially those who think that the best years of life are behind them, is truly inspiring. Before we sign off, where can our listeners connect with you or learn more about your work?
I'm quite active when it comes to some of the social media platforms. I'm there on Instagram, and you can search me through my handle, which is OR_real5. Or you can search me on LinkedIn, which I'm there. LinkedIn is mostly involved in other professional activities around my work. Instagram is mostly my personal activities, so they can reach me in these two social platforms, which I'm pretty active on.
Thank you very much for that. And to our audience, thank you for tuning in to the Matrix Green Pill podcast. If you found value in this episode, please hit follow and leave us a 5-star review. It helps us bring these powerful stories to more people. Until next time, stay curious, stay committed, and don't settle for anything less than your full potential.
If you enjoy our conversations, please like and subscribe. See you next Wednesday.